We've got breaking news out of the association where the Jazz are trading Collin Sexton in a 2030 second-round pick to the Hornets for Jusuf Nurkic. That's according to ESPN. Both players had one season remaining on a 4-year, $70 million deal. Sexton averaged just under 18.5 points last season for Sacramento, leaves one rebuild in Utah for another in Charlotte. Nurkic, meanwhile, coming off his lowest scoring and rebounding averages in nearly a decade. Let's bring in Sam Quinn to talk about this trade here. So, Sam, where does this sort of sit with you? How does it resonate with you about what we're learning today?
Yeah, this is an interesting trade for Charlotte, right? They've been linked to a lot of the guards on the free agent market. Ty Jerome was a name that was getting thrown around. They clearly wanted to get another ball handler behind LaMelo Ball, and I think they've done very well here. Collin Sexton is a good player. He hasn't grown into the defender that we would have hoped when he got drafted, but he's gotten over a lot of the ball hog tendencies from his early years in Cleveland. He can shoot, he can get to the basket. He's a valuable player, right? I'm surprised that they could get him at this price because it was just a few months ago that Phoenix had to give up a first-round pick just to dump Jusuf Nurkic, right? Like, I'm surprised that they're not only are they making this swap, they're getting a draft pick to do this. So for Charlotte, this is a great trade. For Utah, I have some questions, right? First things first, Collin Sexton, they probably could have gotten pretty good value for him at the deadline. He's been available at multiple trade deadlines in the past. At the very least, you figure you wouldn't have had to attach a draft pick to get off of him. Now they do. I think this is indicative of Danny Ainge's trend as a GM. He tends to hold on to players and wait for the big package, right? He never trades players unless he thinks he's getting a huge return. Well, the downside of acting that way strategically is that sometimes you're just never going to get that package. And when you want to move a guy, you kind of have to settle for less, which is what they did here.
So just to piggyback off of that then, because I've been hearing about them trying to move on from Collin Sexton, John Collins, Jordan Clarkson, Sam. So what's the likelihood you think that Danny Ainge has yet to be done yet dealing?
Oh, I assume there's more to come here. So interestingly, Austin Ainge, who's now new president of basketball operations, Danny's son, he takes over last month. He has, at his press conference, he gets asked if Utah is going to continue to manipulate minutes with their veteran players, in an effort to lose games down the stretch. And he was pretty emphatic. We're not going to do that this year, right? Well, the Jazz also owe a top 8 protected first-round pick to the Thunder that they really don't want to give away this year, right? Especially to the Thunder of all teams. So I almost wonder if this is a backdoor way of ensuring that you keep that pick. You can't manipulate minutes on good players if you don't have good players. So I do think they're going to continue to try to trade their veterans. They do want to keep that pick regardless of what they're saying at press conferences. And this is a way to do that because Jusuf Nurkic is not the player he was in Portland anymore. The Suns had to give up a first-round pick to get off of him. There's not a contractual disparity here at play, right? They're both on expiring deals. To me, this very much just strikes me as we needed to clear a guard off of our roster, a veteran. We want to lose games, and we want to find more minutes for our young guys.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Nurkic can get back to the Portland days of his consistent productivity that we saw him do double-digit scoring for many seasons. By the way, before I let you go here, Sam, looks like you're very bullish on what Charlotte was able to do in this deal, but if we asked you for a grade maybe on each side, what would they be for each team?
I'm going to give it an A for Charlotte. This is kind of a no-brainer, right? You've basically turned an identical contract in a player that you weren't going to use into one that you are going to use, and you get a pick to do it. So it makes perfect sense for me. It opens up minutes for their young big men, right? Moussa Diabate was good for them last year. They took Kalkbrenner from Creighton in the draft. I assume they're going to get a lot of opportunity to show what they can do. So I'm going to give them a straight A. For Utah, I guess I'm not going to give it an F. I'm going to give it a D just because they have so many young guards on that team that need minutes. They took Walter Clayton in the draft. They have Isaiah Collier. They have Keontae George. They have a lot of guards that they needed to find minutes for that they weren't going to be able to do with Sexton on the team. And I would assume Jordan Clarkson's next out the door. But to give up value just to get rid of the player, I'm almost compelled to ask, why wouldn't you just cut him, right? Are you really that bullish on Jusuf Nurkic after everything that you saw from him in Phoenix and Charlotte last year? I wouldn't be. So I'm confused why they're giving away the pick. This seems like a very strange trade for them. So I'm going to give them a D.
Okay, an A and a D from Sam Quinn here with the trade between Utah and Charlotte. And in case you missed it again, the trade details. Interesting enough, all the stuff surrounding the Jazz was Ace Bailey this week. And yet all of the rumblings behind the scenes leads to a Sunday trade in the NBA.
Breaking news from the NBA, LeBron James has picked up his player option that will pay him $52.6 million next season. That's according to ESPN. It's a widely expected move for the Lakers superstar, who will receive just below the maximum salary and retain the no-trade clause he negotiated last summer. This fall, LeBron is set to play his 8th season in LA and 23rd in the NBA, which would surpass Vince Carter for most all time. NBA host and analyst for CBS Sports, John Gonzalez, joining us now. Talk about a good day to be LeBron. These are the types of problems and decisions I want to be making in my life, but we'll leave that alone right now. John, what does this decision mean for not only LeBron, but for the near future for the Lakers?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I think we are always barreling towards this conclusion here, Mike, because as you mentioned, LeBron's going to be 41 in December. He has that $52.6 million player option. It allows him to retain his no trade clause. The other option was he could opt out and then they could sign him maybe to another 1-1. But from the Lakers' perspective, that made less sense. I mean, I'm sure LeBron probably wanted that. But from the Lakers' perspective, if you wait, LeBron's money comes off the books next offseason, and all of a sudden that's a nice chunk of change that you could allocate to more and younger resources as you try to build around Luka long term, because Luka's also extension eligible. And then if you also wait, then you open up that 2033 first round draft pick that you could package along with your 2031. Now they could still trade the 2031 before then, but as you're looking at this whole thing, taking a step back, seeing the 30,000 foot view, it just makes a lot of sense for the team to go, okay, we were the 3rd seed last year in the Western Conference. If we just keep our powder dry a little bit here, we bring LeBron back, obviously he opts in, but we don't do much else aside from like on the margins, and we wait to make 2026 our big offseason. Well, now you can make wholesale changes and really potentially rebuild this thing on the fly around Luka as LeBron ages out.
Now, you mentioned the 30,000 foot view. As a fan, if I'm sitting here, I'm looking at LeBron James, 22, 23 years going into the league. You're talking about company with Vince Carter. That's good company to keep, obviously, but it's a longevity thing. How many more years do you think LeBron has left? I know it's a tough question because you still see him at this age perform at a high level.
Yeah, I mean, like think about last year. He won a gold medal in the summer where Steph Curry had the most memorable shot of that tournament. But if we're talking about who was the best player on that team in its entirety, it was probably LeBron. And then he goes into the Lakers season where the Lakers got off to kind of like a little bit of a rocky start. And then all of a sudden, Anthony Davis went down and the Lakers got better just with LeBron James out there. And then they traded for Luka and then end up as the 3rd seed. So how many more games or how many more seasons does he have left in him? I think more than just one, actually. I mean, I know he's going to be 41 in December. And as you mentioned, he's going to break a tie with Vince Carter for the most seasons ever. He's also 50 games away from playing in the most games ever. That record is held by Robert Parrish, the former Celtics great. LeBron's going to take that over too. It wouldn't surprise me at all if LeBron plays another year after this. Now, whether or not it's with the Lakers, that's to be determined. I suspect if he stays with the Lakers, he's going to have to take a pretty significant pay cut. But the guy's done everything you could possibly ask. And to be 41 in December and to be playing at this level is just so remarkable. He's done so many things in his career that defy belief. So it would not surprise me at all if he had another year beyond this.
He's made more than $500 million in his career already on the court, but I imagine he wouldn't mind another ring. Are the Lakers going to be enough to compete with OKC now in the West with this move?
Yeah, I mean, potentially. They were the 3 seed last year. Oklahoma City, no doubt about it, is the heavy favorite in the Western Conference. But if you look up and down the Western Conference standings, there are, at a minimum, possibly more, 13 teams that have designs on just making the playoffs. And then of those, how many could potentially be contenders? Well, okay, we saw Oklahoma City win in 7 games in the finals. But hey, they had to go to 7 games against the Denver Nuggets. Now, that has a lot to do with Nikola Jokic being the best player in the world. Apologies to SGA as the MVP. But he took them to the brink. So Oklahoma City is not completely unbeatable. The Pacers took them to 7 games. The Pacers had an incredible season, and who knows what happens if Tyrese Halliburton doesn't go down. So to answer your question in a long way, yes, the Lakers could potentially be contenders in the Western Conference. Again, LeBron is playing at a really high level. You get a full season of him and Luka now. They have a lot of moves to make still. Dorian Finney-Smith, he could potentially opt out. There's been some rumblings about whether or not he was going to stick around. Kind of surprising, to be honest with you, because I'm not sure that there's money for Dorian Finney-Smith to get a raise raise, a bump in salary. Also, they need a center, as everybody knows, right? They were running Jackson Hayes out there. They were starting him. And then once they got into the actual games, they'd yank him out and they'd go small ball center with LeBron and Dorian Finney-Smith. And of course, everybody can use shooters, including the Lakers. So still some moves to be made on the margins. But yeah, the Lakers are in the mix along with 6, 8, 10 other teams to potentially win the Western Conference.
All right, John Gonzalez, this is a big domino to fall, but as we mentioned, an expected one. So we'll see what it means, in fact, for the Lakers moving forward. But thanks for your help here. Okay, let's take a look at some of the contract stuff for both LeBron James and Luka Doncic. LeBron opting in that $52.6 million player option, as ESPN reported, for next season, would be an NBA record 23rd NBA season next year. Luka, meanwhile, $46 million coming his way, $49 million player option in 2026-2027. He's eligible to sign up for a 4-year extension for an estimated $229 million on August 2nd.